Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Tonight I wanted to talk to you about the latest blows coming from the Palestinian resistance against the genocide forces in Gaza amidst talks about a close ceasefire from Antony Blinken. He's making new statements now. Israel warning to explode and attack the Beirut airport alongside other updates in the region. But firstly, Donald Trump did something quite unpredictable. Now, the man is known to be unpredictable, but especially when it comes to Israel, the man received over 100 million from Miriam Edelson. He is constantly with the Zionist lobby. He made statements that are very much pro-Israel. He made statements that are against the Palestinians as well. But he decided to share this video on his social network, Truth Social, regarding Jeffrey Sachs. Jeffrey Sachs is a critical voice when it comes to Israel. He criticizes Israel and he criticizes the US administration as well. But the most relevant part that he mentioned in this video is this part here.
It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually. You know that? It's weird. And the way it is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you.
Now, this video, he mentioned a couple of things about the wars of the United States, that the United States attacked Iraq on baseless claims, fabrications, and that they had to sell this war to the American people because it was based on fake evidence and maliciousness coming from the United States administration, but that Netanyahu was behind it too. And he's also talking about the attempted CIA moves in Syria and in other countries as well. But he also mentioned this note about Netanyahu. Now, when a president, or well, due to be a president now, shares something online, you know, everything is scrutinized. You don't share something, you know, by coincidence without seeing the details, especially when you're at such a senior position, especially not with an ally this close. Now, this received a lot of criticism in the Israeli media. Many mainstream media outlets posted this. Some in Israel showed support to the statements that Donald Trump was posting this because he's a warmonger, according to some Israelis. Others, on the other hand, said, well, no, Trump cannot be trusted. And others chose to be in denial. They were like, oh, no, he didn't mean anything about Benjamin Netanyahu. He was just sharing a video. But the fact of the matter is there's something deeper than that. Now, Netanyahu and Trump, they've had tensions before. It's not the first time they had tensions. And although Donald Trump, well, he's connected with the Zionist lobby undeniably, and his position is very well known too, he does certain things that are unpredictable. As a matter of fact, at one point, Donald Trump, he famously refused to shake the hand of Benjamin Netanyahu, such as in this video here. Now look at his face, look at Donald Trump's face and Benjamin Netanyahu here. Benjamin Netanyahu was clearly upset and infuriated by this, and he actually gave him a nudge, like, where are you going? But still, Donald Trump went away looking back at him like that and ignoring him. And you can see Netanyahu's face. And this was the second time, by the way, during that meeting, when Donald Trump actually refused to shake the hand of Netanyahu. They've had tensions before. And Trump criticized Netanyahu heavily, especially after he congratulated Joe Biden when Trump was still disputing those elections. However, things will become clearer. Things will become clearer by the end of the month when Trump is officially there, and what he is doing so far, he's threatening the Palestinian side, saying release the hostages or release the hostages or. Is he also throwing that statement with a threat or an underlying threat against Netanyahu too? Could be. Because don't forget, the right wing in Israel, they're building hopes on Donald Trump. The settlement establishment or the squatting establishment in Israel, they're having high hopes in Donald Trump that he will now recognize the West Bank as Israeli territories. And now Smotrich, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's one of the closest allies of Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that now after Donald Trump comes, we're going to actually occupy Gaza completely, and we're going to declare it part of Israel. So is Donald Trump sending mixed signals here, or is he genuine about what he's doing with Netanyahu or against Netanyahu? Time will prove, but this wasn't taken in a very good manner when it comes to Israel. And the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is more divisions coming from Israel. Now, more conflict coming from the Israeli defense minister and the IDF chief of staff. Now, if you recall, Benjamin Netanyahu sacked Yoav Gallant previously because Yoav Gallant was seen as a man who doesn't really sit well with Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu sacked him before during the protests of the against the judicial reform that Benjamin Netanyahu was pushing for, and he had to take him back following protests, asking for Gallant to be back as the defense minister. Then he sacked him. And he brought in Israel Katz. Israel Katz, a man with no experience at that level. He had no senior top positions in the Israeli army. And as a matter of fact, even within Israel, they criticize him for his lack of experience. He made a joke out of himself with certain statements he made when he was with the Israeli army in relation to Lebanon. He got mixed up when it comes to the desires of Benjamin Netanyahu or the objectives of the war, to be more accurate, in Lebanon, because the main objective, the declared objective of Benjamin Netanyahu, was to return the Israeli settlers back to the north. When the defense minister, the now defense minister, Israel Katz, was saying, no, our job is to eliminate the Hezbollah. And at the time, the Israeli chief of staff, the IDF chief of staff, looked at him in like a strange way, like, what are you talking about? But now he is escalating against them. What is he doing? He is urging the Israeli army to comply completely with investigations that are being made surrounding the 7th of October. Now, there are certain rules and procedures that the IDF follows. And many are saying in Israel that Katz, the Israeli defense minister, is stretching the boundaries now, pushing the limits. And they're criticizing him openly. One of the people who criticized Israel Katz was none other than Daniel Hagari, the spokesperson of the IDF. And now the Israeli defense minister, Katz, is saying an apology is not enough. So what is he planning to push him to get fired or sack him? But the fact of the matter is, and that's something that's been there for a very long time now, since the beginning of the genocide, there is a very large split at the top of the Israeli political and military echelons. They have a massive split between them. People work against each other to a level where Benjamin Netanyahu had to form a unit in the Israeli army to work for him and report for him directly against all of the procedures of the IDF, to a level where Benjamin Netanyahu had to security check the IDF chief of staff previously many times before meeting with him, in fear of certain leaks, to check if he has wires, if he's going to leak some information, because there were leaks before from meetings, from cabinet meetings, and these people have no faith in each other. So they're more split than anyone can imagine. And these things are only the tip of the iceberg, what's being published in even Israeli mainstream media, who try and cover it up in general. Moving on to Gaza and what's happening with the ceasefire and where are we on the ground? Well, Israel is continuing, of course, the genocide with more massacres all across of Gaza. They are still banning the aid and the necessary equipment from going into hospitals. The situation is still very tough with the civilians, but there are hopes of a ceasefire. There are hopes of a ceasefire soon. We'll get to a ceasefire in a second. But before that, Al-Qassam brigades, the armed wing of Hamas, they're continuing to target the genocide forces heavily in Gaza. And they posted more videos of them in Jabalia targeting genocide forces and even obtaining information from their drones. And these are images that were published from Israeli drones inside of Gaza. They targeted the Merkava tank with a Scene 105 with smoke seen coming out of it after they targeted it too. And they also used an anti-personnel against several soldiers alongside other attacks. So they're, of course, continuing with resistance actions. Israel today confirmed that two Israeli genocide soldiers were killed in North Gaza. Again, apart from the 4 that they declared were killed yesterday. So it's continuing, and the resistance is not stopping, despite all of the Israeli genocide and massacres against the civilians. Now, when it comes to the ceasefire, we've been talking about the ceasefire for a very long time. Ups and downs when it comes to the ceasefire. Hopeful situations, positivity, pessimism, Netanyahu going back, making it impossible, delegations, advanced stages. But according to Anthony Blinken, he still says that the prospect of a ceasefire deal remains very close. Now, what the Biden administration are saying now is, if we don't get a deal within 12 days, we will hand the ceasefire deal to Donald Trump. There's still a very high likelihood of having a ceasefire, but if we don't get it, well, Blinken was saying, I hope that we can get it over the line in the time that we have. But if it doesn't happen up until the 20th of January, I believe that when we get that deal, and we will get it, it'll be on the basis of the plan that President Biden put before the world back in May. That's even if Donald Trump continues with that ceasefire. What is that telling you? That tells you that all of the deal updates and all of the amendments and everything hasn't really changed much since Biden's speech about the ceasefire that Hamas welcomed and accepted. Joe Biden had a speech in which he declared back in May 2023, where he declared that Benjamin Netanyahu was actually the one who agreed to this. As a matter of fact, the previous war cabinet member, Gadi Eisenkot, who then resigned with Benny Gantz, he himself said that Netanyahu accepted it and then retreated following threats from the ultra-right-wing figures in his government, Smotrich primarily, but also Ben Gvir. And then they resigned, him and Benny Gantz, in June. They gave Benjamin Netanyahu an ultimatum, and they both resigned in June. What does that say? Well, that says that Hamas are still negotiating from a position of power despite all of the Israeli genocide and crimes that are happening in Gaza. This is something astonishing. They're still negotiating from a position of power. I mean, states would have raised the white flags if they faced this level of brutality and barbarism, modern day barbarism, coming from this genocide state against any country. Yet Hamas and the Palestinian resistance and the Palestinian people, they're not giving up. They're like, well, what are you threatening us with, right? Like Donald Trump, again, with his contradicting moves, saying he promises hell. The Palestinians were like, what, are you promising us hell? We're already living in hell. What do you mean? Bring it on. What are you going to do? That says that Hamas and the Palestinian resistance, and of course with Hamas, they're leading the negotiating delegation, speaking on behalf of all of the Palestinian resistance. They are talking for the best interests of the people of Gaza at the end of the day. Why? Because they don't want a continuation of the war. They don't want to give Israeli prisoners of war on a silver plate for Israel, only for the genocide entity to continue committing crime. No, they want to end the war. They want the genocide occupation forces to withdraw from Gaza. They want to rebuild Gaza. They want the people to go back to everywhere where they were expelled from, and also rebuild and get all of the aid in. So, according to Blinken, and of course many other reports too, still at an advanced stage, but Benjamin Netanyahu is still delaying. Will it happen before Donald Trump comes in? We don't know. Time will reveal, but what's for sure is that things are still moving on the front of the negotiations, which leads us to Lebanon. In Lebanon, we're also due to get a deadline in 2.5 weeks where Israel will have to withdraw all of its forces from South Lebanon. And if they do not withdraw all of their forces from South Lebanon, that means we are officially in a state of war. We are officially back in square one. And that square one could be one day before the ceasefire began, which means 500 missiles on central Israel coming from Hezbollah. That's something very serious. Now, Amos Hochstein is in Lebanon. He is in Lebanon trying to come up with this new formula. Firstly, he's saying, no, Israel is going to be withdrawing. Israel is going to be withdrawing within the 60-day time frame, but let's see if we can stretch that. Then he said, well, maybe we can propose another 60 days or maybe 30 days. Maybe they can stay a little bit longer, you know. Poor genocide soldiers, they want to stay a bit longer in Lebanon. They're having fun. But that's not working. That isn't working. Clearly, the mediators from Lebanon, they aren't accepting that. The Israeli presence and crimes in Lebanon, breaches of the ceasefire, are not only causing problems in general, but they're also causing problems with the Lebanese army. More Lebanese soldiers showing to be stepping on Israeli flags, more hostility towards Israel. And Hezbollah are saying as well, you want the Lebanese army. Also, the Lebanese army, go ahead, show us and defend Lebanon. Because it was Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance who liberated the south at the end of the day. But you want responsibility, you want control. Here you have occupying forces. Look at what they're doing. And we need to have mutual responsibility if you want to bear that responsibility. Because many people underestimate the level of responsibility that these resistance movements have at the end of the day. Likewise, in the West Bank now, with the Palestinian Authority targeting the Palestinian resistance instead of fighting the Israeli occupation. But now Israel is also warning. They're warning that if it goes through and Hezbollah start to attack us again, this time we will be bombing the Beirut airport. The Beirut airport was a red line. Why? Because Israel and Hezbollah knew the equation. The equation is destruction is met with destruction. Hezbollah does not underestimate Israel, and Israel does not underestimate Hezbollah. They both know that if certain civilian infrastructure starts to get targeted, the other side will target it as well. And the equation of the southern suburb of Beirut, if it's attacked, then Haifa will be attacked. That was implemented. And if Beirut is attacked, Tel Aviv is attacked. That was also implemented. These two equations and comparisons, well, Hezbollah told them, if you target these locations, we target you. And they did. And Israel knows the situation. They know the score when it comes to Hezbollah. And although they would like to portray it as, Hezbollah is now choked and they're weaker and they don't have weapons and they don't have supply, and Hezbollah are still a very strong resistance movement who are able to withstand years of fighting against the Israeli genocide forces. If Hamas in Gaza were able to fight for 15 months and the Palestinian resistance, if they were able to stand up against a genocidal army backed by the world's biggest terrorist state, the United States administration, well, Hezbollah can also do the same. if not even more, because the record, the level of intensity, the level of attacks that they conducted against Israel have been very, very persistent and very systematic, very calculated, very strategic, and constant. They did not stop. And if Israel thinks that they would be able to apply pressure on Hezbollah by attacking, for example, the Beirut airport, well, tough luck. You're going to have Ben Gurion airport targeted, and not with any light missiles, by the way. Hezbollah are able to cause a lot of harm, especially with their drones too. They can target Ben Gurion airport. They can target other strategic facilities inside of Israel, energy sector, power plants as well, and hit Israel really, really badly when it comes to their infrastructure, their civilian infrastructure. And the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the genocide soldiers are being monitored. The people who are active for human rights, for the cause of the Palestinian people, the people who are active against the war criminal entity of Israel and its backers, they bring results. They bring results with their activism. They monitor the genocide soldiers, they monitor the crimes, and they take legal action, apart from the, of course, protesting and online activism, commenting, everything. All of these things are so important, the boycotts. But this legal action that's being taken is petrifying people inside of Israel, especially those who served in the last year in the Gaza genocide. So what is the IDF going to do about that exactly? Well, they're planning to conceal the identities of combat troops now. Israel usually conceals the identities of pilots and special forces. But now they're going to be concealing identities of combat troops as well. You can't use social media. If we bring you in photos, we're going to have to hide your face. You're going to have to take certain measures as well, not to reveal yourself, because there are many people active. And although Israel is now trying to limit the damage is already done, by the way. So many of these, like Genocide Tracker, for example, or the Hind Rajab Foundation, they carry out a lot of work, and they've already monitored many of these depraved TikTok genocide troops, genocide soldiers of Israel, who proudly, post their depravity online. They already know them. They know their names. They know what they do. They know where they live. Some of them have, social accounts. But now Israel's trying to take action, and they're doing that, by the way, past the 90th minute. The damage has already been done. The names are already known, to a level where in many countries now, legal action is being taken against people, to a level where in Brazil, they had to facilitate the escape of an Israeli soldier who was investigated. Again, Palestinian supporting federation, they had this claim against the soldier. And they said, well, how did he run away? In Israel, they said, well, he managed to get his way out. But the organization that brought the case against him, they said, no, it was the Israeli embassy now managing to coordinate and do things above the law, undermining the sovereignty of Brazil. And now they're calling on the Brazilian government to take action against Israel, to, question them. How did this man disappear? We were investigating him for crimes against humanity, and we are a law-abiding country at the end of the day. We need to respect international law. But clearly, the Israeli soldiers, they think that they're above the law also internationally. You see, in Israel, they give them that feeling that they are above the law. Some of them mentioned, a godlike feeling, even being in Gaza, killing whoever they want, whenever they want. But they think that they can do that also across the world, and that's no longer the case. These people are monitored, and these people are being brought to justice, or at least attempts are being made from the Palestine supporting organization, which are primarily human rights supporting organizations, to be fair, against this criminal entity. They're proving to be extremely effective. And this is another sign of how important the activism is. Because many people will, in many cases, see all of the crimes ongoing. What are we doing to stop this? Not stopping an import. All of these small bits, they make an impact. They have a massive difference, whether when it comes to the protesting or the boycotting, from the economic perspective, from the legal perspective too, political, where possible as well. All of these things are very important, and they are bringing results to a level where Israel now has a special unit for Israelis abroad to try and help them when it comes to any potential organizations raising claims against them, trying to take them to courts in foreign countries internationally. And these were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this video. As usual, I hope I added some beneficial information for you, shed some light as to what's happening, and I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Peace.